And this is the thing I haven't really heard anybody talk about. I feel like there's this rhetoric out there that your no buy is just gonna fix everything. Hi everyone, I'm Shauna and welcome to the channel. Today's video is going to be, I'm calling it a no buy update, but really a low buy update, a reflection on this past month, how things went. And as usual, I have a lot to say. The order of today's video is just going to be a little bit different. I'm going to talk first about this larger reflection on spending and purchasing habits, those kinds of things, like really specific no buy, low buy content and reflection. Then I'm going to get into what I bought. It's not really a lot. The content that I most want to talk about, and I think maybe the most helpful, or what I want to be the most significant takeaway, is what's going to be up front. Then we'll get into what I bought, and then we'll get into the life update. Before we begin, I do want to give a content warning or a trigger warning. I'm going to be talking about trauma and childhood trauma today. I'm not going to be going into actually anything in specific and what specifically the kind of trauma I experienced. This doesn't really feel like the place for that, but at the same time, I'm going to be using those words, and even just hearing the word trauma can be triggering for some people. So if that's you, this might not be the video for you, and that's okay. And I hope to see you again later in another one. So last week when last update, when I was talking about why I decided to stop the no buy and what the goals were, I emphasized that the no buy didn't really prepare me for repairing my overall relationship with money. The point of going off the no buy was to strengthen the money skills, the money mindsets, and changing my actual mindset around money, but also the shopping habit themselves. It's really easy to say no when you're not allowed to say no, opposed to putting those restraints and parameters on yourself, being able to buy, I guess, whatever you want, but then creating that criteria and being able to say no. I guess being able to self-regulate, really. A no buy is a really fantastic tool in helping you honestly give you a reset. And if you're experiencing financial difficulty because of your spending habits, it's just a really positive experience because you're no longer spending in the way that you were. So it's financially a good thing. But when you're somebody maybe who's like me, who's just always indulged every whim, you're no longer doing that. So there's clear benefits of no buys, but I think there's also limitations too. And that's what I realized kind of going back on the no buy and trying to finesse it. And I felt like there was more internal work that I needed to do that the no buy can't do for me. And that was the reason why I went off. But this money mindset thing is something that I wanted to improve. So that's one thing I wanted to improve. I'm making a larger point here, so hold on. And then 2 months ago, or I guess 2 updates ago, I also said I wanted to better prepare myself in the event of a crisis or a hard situation. And so I guess establishing habits or routines of some kind, essentially being proactive before a difficult situation arises. Because when I'm in these difficult situations, when I'm in these crises, that is when my worst spending happens, which is destructive spending. I'll buy things I know I can't afford, and I'll buy things to prove to myself that that I'm a worthless person, or to prove to myself that I'm a bad decision maker. So those are the two goals that I had set for myself, and or I guess more next steps, but I saw them as kind of separate. Okay, so if you want to get better at money mindset, if you want to get better in terms of how you spend and why you spend, then that involves one solution. That involves maybe setting up budgets or reading more books or education about that specific field. And then there's that second field, which is destructive spending, being in a tough mental space, and then that requires a separate kind of second set of solutions. And here's the thing, I'm not trying to say I know it all, because it's far from that, But in terms of like how to have a healthier relationship with your money, I've actually done a lot of reading on that, and I've implemented a lot of what I've read, such as emergency funds and having 3 to 6 months worth of your salary. I actually have more than a year's worth of salary in savings. So it's not as though like I am financially corrupt or I have no money skills. I know better, and I've had some education, and I know what the next steps are financially here, and I know that like I would be great with the budget, or more of my life needs to be budgeted. But the problem here is that I haven't really implemented some of these things. And even then, money mindset and like this financial component is really woven into what I've said like right from the beginning of my no buy, is that like I've spent because of like the personal narratives and the personal stories that I tell to myself about myself. I don't spend destructively because I don't have a budget, and it's not as though having a budget has saved me, because in many respects having a budget across multiple categories has been helpful, but the destructive spending almost has nothing to do with the budget, because I have this personal narrative about myself. I had kind of divorced or maybe forgotten some of these larger thoughts that I had known or realized earlier in the no buy. But what has happened, I guess, that feels more triggering or more like something has changed, is that the destructive spending has become like a legitimate problem in my life in a way that like it never has before. The problem was like not being able to resist the top, or buying an eyeshadow palette I didn't need and then like repeating that, whereas that was, I think, the biggest problem I was having. And then I was also trying to fix problems of myself by buying something new, like I think one of the examples I gave really early on was buying a blazer because I wanted to appear a certain way to the world because of how I felt about myself. What is happening now is this like legitimately, you're a piece of shit. Let me demonstrate to you how horrible you are by making a really bad financial decision. That's kind of separate and almost like a new phenomena that's been happening that is like really based in kind of like deep-seated negative feelings about myself. And so the finances and like the thinking, if we kind of those two goals or things I'm wanting to change are interconnected, and therefore the work that needs to be done is much more significant than I realized, and really demonstrates to me actually why I need to do the work, and why, importantly, getting off the no buy is going to be important to me, so I can like really flex and like learn these skills. The past 2 weeks in particular, but this thought has been going on for a little bit more than that, I realized that I had been on this self-healing journey, but I had stopped, and also have been inconsistent. I'd spent a few weeks doing something and then I'd stop because I feel fine, or I'd see a therapist for a few months, you know, like maybe once every 2 weeks for a couple of months, and then feel better and then kind of stop, and you know, have these kind of behaviors and then stop because like I'm better, like why do I need to keep doing these things? And I ultimately did not have a long-term game plan in mind. I'm not gonna fix or change negative ideas about myself and my worth because I talked to somebody 5 times. And when you're inconsistent in something like therapy, if you feel like this is going to be beneficial to you, you can only talk about so many, if you're inconsistent, you can only talk about so many topics, and you could only go so deep. There was no long-term plan in play. Like, okay, if I'm serious about healing myself and becoming the person I want to be, it was like, it either had to be quick or it just like didn't exist. When really, I think it's a long-term play here. Even if I recognized, okay, I think therapy would be beneficial to me, I was never in it long enough to really get any kind of, like, to deal with any deep-seated issues. I could talk about why I feel worthless or unworthy right now, but like, why did I ever start feeling this way? How do I, okay, I can challenge some of those thoughts. So where do these thoughts come from? Where are they from? Where did they originate? And more than just like challenging them right now, is there potentially a way to stop them? Are there like, do they come from trauma? Do they, like, would addressing the trauma be healing? Would knowing where they come from be healing? And is just giving myself these ideas of how do I stop them right now, or how do I challenge them now, is that enough? Will they do enough? And ultimately, I think the answer is no. And I think that in order to like permanently challenge or get to the bottom of these destructive spendings and these really destructive thoughts that affect more than my bank account, more work needs to be done. And I really feel like I need to get to the root of these things. Even with like, okay, so you want to challenge your thoughts. Okay. If you don't have a long-term plan in place, at least for me, and I really don't want to speak on behalf or for anybody else or apply my situation to anybody else who's watching. And so I feel like if I want to challenge these thoughts, if I want to actually get good in practice, I need homework. Like, I need somebody to say, here's what you got to do, and then here's how you do it. But it's going to take a long ass time to do it. And so I feel like I need homework. I need somebody to give me direction and then do the homework. I'm not just going to, fix things by myself or change things by myself. I don't know if I have the tools to do that. And so seeing somebody for a couple of months is not really enough time to like dig into the problems that you really want to talk about and then have the homework. And so this month I committed to myself about making a long-term plan. And instead of saying like, oh, I'm going to develop all of these habits and all of these skills, I feel like the first step is like, I'm committing myself to a long-term plan. At least a year, but likely more, likely 2 to 5 years. At least that's kind of what I'm trying to, set myself up as. This is not going to be, 3 months, snap your fingers thing, and you're changed, or you're better, or you're healed. I think that this is just like the start of the journey, and I've verbalized this commitment to others, and I've put steps in place to hopefully keep not just myself accountable, but like so I have others that are on my team to help me. No, the way I think about myself, I think is going to be central, like the essential component of this self-healing journey that I'm on. I was calling it other things. I had this self-love and confidence project. I do need self-confidence and I do need self-love, but I think more than anything, I need self-healing. All this time, I was looking for the wrong thing or trying to maybe go about it in the wrong way, when really what I need most is self-healing. And this is the thing I haven't really heard anybody talk about. I feel like there's this rhetoric out there that your no-buy is just going to fix everything, when really it's just the start. Like the no-buy, I don't know, I feel like this year and some of the choices I've made this year, and even deciding to go back on the no-buy for a few months, I feel like have led me to this place of, Shauna, what you really need in your life is self-healing. That is maybe the most amazing gift I could give myself, to really feel like this is what I need, and to have made this commitment to myself to do it, and to have others, professionals as well as family, who are ready to fight for me, who are ready to help. I think that is like the ultimate act of self-love, is to commit yourself to the necessity. And while I know it's not gonna be easy, and I don't know how much of this will like come out, but I wanted to let y'all know about this commitment that I made for myself, and I'm kind of excited about it. One of the catalysts for this is it was actually my brother, and I guess spoiler alert to like what's happening in my life right now. My brother and I we've had this very interesting relationship, but he moved out at a really young age, in his teens, and ever since we've had, I don't want to say a negative relationship by any means, because nothing has ever happened like between us two that is negative or like hurting each other. That's not what happened. It's more like a drift. And so he's lived very locally, like within a 20-minute drive from me for all my life, really. And he told me just a couple weeks ago that he's moving to Halifax, which is like literally across the country, and I was really sad about it. And we had a conversation the other day that it let me know two things. It let me know that the way I had been feeling was validated by the only other person who could give me the validation that I wanted or needed, and he experienced very much the same kinds of traumas that I did. But we had this conversation that was like, it brought us instantly together. I think that was like the most precious gift to our relationship, like for that to have happened. That was so healing, at least for me, and I hope it was for him too. I feel like it was, but I want to, speak for him. I actually told him about this channel recently, well, that day. So if you're watching, hi, I'm so proud of you. I want to like tell him a million things. But that conversation was really beautiful and really healing for me, and I feel like the start of a new relationship between us. But that conversation made me realize so much that I experienced a lot of trauma in childhood, and that it's been basically like unacknowledged and unresolved. And one of the things that I had been reading about is that like children who experience trauma often disassociate, and one of the main ways they do that is by blocking out like chunks of their life. And when I think back to my childhood, I have no memories of my parents, like literally none. I was sitting down for like an hour and thinking like, any memory of my parents, I have like maybe 10 from the years of 0 to 18 that I can remember, and another maybe half of those, if not maybe a few more, like additional to the 10, are only things I remember because I've seen pictures. And if they didn't exist, I would probably have 10 or few memories total of my parents, whether positive or negative. And so that is one of the things that, like, this is only a speculation and I haven't kind of started this work yet, but I feel like there's gonna be a lot to unpack there, because I don't remember like anything about my parents. And that I know that like we spent summers together, we spent weeks camping together. I don't remember any of it. So I don't know really, even up to the age of 18. And even 8 between like in my university years. The most memories are in my university years, but I have very few that I remember even then. This might not be the content that you expected from me in this update, but again, I really feel like it's so necessary, because I don't really hear anybody talking about how sometimes the way that people talk about what their nobody can do, just really like people treat it like it's this thing that will solve all the problems, and really it's just like the scratching of the surface. And I really feel like, not just for me, but for a lot of people out there, there's more work that we need to do. And I don't hear anybody talking about that. I don't really hear anybody saying like, okay, these are from these deeper places, the reasons why I spend, or the reasons why I think this way about myself, which causes me to spend in this way, I think these are due to deeper issues or childhood issues, and so I need to get that addressed. I've like never heard anybody talk about this before. And so I kind of feel like I'm almost like striking it out on my own. But if you have anybody who you know who's talked about these things, I would love to hear. I would love to hear your recommendations in the comments below. So I really believe that a lot of my worldviews were adopted in childhood that, you know, kind of stem to this day, and the way I think about things this day, including how I feel about myself, which affects my spending, kind of goes back to childhood, which is why I want to address it. I want to make it really clear that this is not like a willpower issue, that this is much deeper than that. And even when it comes to how I spend in general, it's not as though I don't know how to say no to stuff. Like, that's a completely separate spending. There's a lot of things I've said no to. I almost bought the new Glossier eyeshadows and the Glossier Ultra Lips. I said no. I mean, I can do it, and I do it all the time. The spending is just very different. So that is the journey that I'm starting. And like I said, I don't know how much I will talk about it online or in these updates. Maybe I'll be really open, or I'm not sure, but I know it's going to take a long time. And having that expectation, I hope, will allow me to be like gentle with myself and like embracing the unknown, and like it's all part of the journey, I guess. That was deep, that was heavy. So I want to now lighten the mood a little bit by talking about what I bought. And I just bought a couple of things. In terms of quantity, this is probably one of the months with the least amount, but I think the total is a little bit up there. So the first thing that I bought is this Fenty Beauty foundation. It's their soft matte, and I have this in 150. I believe this is a neutral, one of their neutral shades, and it's a really, really beautiful coverage and shade. The shade on me is like perfect. This is what I'm wearing today. It has like powder on top and it has other things, but I do also have a video playing with one of the next items, and it's on my eyes today. When do I ever wear green? I bought this when there was this, like when Sephora was having the 20% off sale for complexion products, and I talked about this in like creating my makeup bag video, that I did not have a complexion product that was in my shade range, and that was important, because if you're going out and about in the world, you don't want something that's like significantly darker than the rest of your body. So I bought this, and really great purchase. I'm still wearing some of the other foundations to like finish them, and I can wear them when I'm filming, but this is like when I want to go out in the world and teach and things like that. So I've worn this maybe 4 or 5 times. I wore it to school once, because I've only been to school one time in person since the start of the year, and because of the mask, it only held up okay, but there's no foundation that holds up better than this, because you're wearing a face mask for literally 8 hours. So I think, like, considering, I did a great job. And even when like I have other days where like I'm only wearing a face mask for, let's say, half an hour at most, it's really fine. The other thing, which I think you've already seen if you've watched other videos, is this Nars palette. It's their Climax palette. This to me embodies that like moody fall vibes that I was talking about, that I was going for. I really think this palette, when I look at what else I own, is definitely like really unique and such a standout in my collection. There's nothing else like this, no other color story like this, and it feels really different than what I bought before. But even just this eye look is different for me, but I kind of love it, and I can't stop staring at myself. In today's look, I used the green shades, and I really did have some trouble blending them, the matte, sorry. So there's going to be another take on this, but this was great. And there are some of you who were commenting that you had a hard time finding this. This is available on the Nars website, and for any of my Canadian followers out there, they have free shipping over, I think it's like $35, and this palette is more than that. So if you bought this and just this alone, you could it would ship free. It's also available on the Shoppers Drug Mart website, which is where I bought it. And I bought it there because you get like 20 times the points on almost anything, and then you can use your points at the grocery store. So so that's where I bought mine, and this has just been, because it's so different, it's just been really fun to play with. And then the last thing that I bought, and I don't think this will be a surprise, I bought the Natasha Denona Retro palette. Look at this beauty. Oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. I played with this a couple of times. I haven't really featured it anywhere, but it's gorgeous, and I'm really happy that I bought it. One of the things that I was really trying to embrace is not just like colors that I liked, but I like mauves because I have green eyes. I feel like greens and mauves really bring out the colors of my eyes, which is one of the reasons why I bought the Nars palette, because it has greens and mauves in it. And I mean, it's not just that, but like there's other beautiful colors in there too. And this is, you know, an all mauve palette, different kinds of shades of mauve. So these are colors that make my makeup feel the most beautiful and make me feel really beautiful when I'm highlighting a feature of myself that I really like. And I really love my eyes. I think that they're like I think that they're a beautiful feature, and I feel even more beautiful when I can like enhance those just a little bit. So now let's talk about how I'm doing, like what's kind of happening in the world of my life. That was weird phrasing. So as I told you, I sell my I'm just letting my hair air dry today. It's a little bit weird. Also, I feel like someone's gonna comment. I had these, hold on, back in December I had a pair of like fake press-on nails. They were blue, and a lot of people were like, wow, those are great. And I said then that I had this like small collection. There was like maybe 3 or 4 pairs that I've had that I've just kind of like sat around, and whenever I felt like it, I've just busted them out. So these are one of the other pairs. I have at least one more that are just like years old that I've just kind of like hung around, and these are from Static Nails, and they're really beautiful. This is day 4 or 5 with these, and they're like holding up really well, and I think that they're like a beautiful color. So I mentioned already that I saw my brother this recently in this past month, and that was amazing, beautiful, and I feel like our relationship is heading into a really great space. But him moving was a little bit surprising and something that, you know, did throw me off guard, but ultimately, like, I'm happy that he's made a choice for him that like is good for him, and I really feel like it's so deserved. I also found out that my parents are moving as well. So the home that I was living in before with them was not my childhood home. It was like, I guess, house number 2 that I've lived in, so it's not as though there's nostalgia there. But what it, I guess, really demonstrated to me was like the splintering of my family. Well, I don't talk to my parents, and I found out through like other channels. It's like, if I ever had any regrets about this decision to move, I no longer have a home to go back to. Look, I never actually could go back because they removed my key when I left, so I could not have actually gone back if I wanted to. But now even any remote possibility is gone, and they're moving like really far away, like 2 or 3 hours away. And so that was a little surprising, and I feel like, and it made me think about the holidays coming up. And I have spent every Christmas with my mom and my dad since childhood, all, I guess, 26 years, not this 27th year. Christmas looked like one way, and while it has evolved a little bit over the years as my grandparents have aged and in COVID, it's always been with them. And this will be the first year that I'm living alone, and the same is true for Thanksgiving. Today is October 8th, and I think that this video is going to go up within 1 or 2 days of filming. So Thanksgiving is this weekend, Monday the 11th, I think it is. And so my family has also always spent kind of Thanksgiving together, and that holiday hasn't really been something of familiar importance. And I do know that I do suspect that I could maybe feel a little bit certain ways about that, But Christmas in specific, I feel like it's going to be difficult because I will be with no family, and it kind of has made me feel like I have no family left. So I really feel like I need to be proactive before that holiday season comes up to come up with a game plan so I feel okay during the holiday times. If you're somebody who lives alone and doesn't have family, doesn't spend time with family, I would love to know if you celebrate Christmas or any of the holidays in the holiday season. What do you do? Like, how have you coped with that? I welcome your thoughts in the comments below. Some lighter things though. I went to school, like physically on campus, for the first time in a year and a half. It was way better than I expected. I was so nervous about it, taking the train and the subway, and both of them were much quieter. On the train, there's like little seats of 4, and there was nobody in my little like pod that was there. It was just me. Same thing on the way back, and the subway was really quiet too. Even during rush hour, kind of shocking. The train station was really quiet as well. School was quiet. I was able to go into the grad lounge. Like things were much better and went way better than I expected. I was so nervous about it, and I like got up way earlier than I needed to, and I got to my train station way earlier than I needed to, and I was like kind of freaking out about it, but it went really well. So I'm happy I had that positive experience. And another positive thing, which I want to end on a positive note, this is like, I guess, a fun thing to end on. I'm a hockey person. And my partner has played hockey, since before I've known him, and his league is not running this year and didn't run last year. And so he has a friend who plays on a men's league, and they needed somebody, and like asked him if he would play, and I went to go watch, and it was just like such a joy. When he was playing, I went to every game and I went to every tournament. I love watching somebody else play or perform in something that they love, and I love like experiencing the joy with them. And this was like such like a high moment to be like, man, this guy's on the ice, he's loving it, he's having a great time, like he's doing something that he loves, and like I get to be here and share that with him. It was so much fun. It was so much fun to watch him play, and I think was maybe a little bit more excited about it than he was. I was much more giddy than he was. And then just a couple days ago, they called him up again, and he was like, okay, either we both go or nobody goes. And I'm like, all right, let's do it, buddy. And that game didn't go as well, but it was still fun, and experiencing the joy of other people is really fun too. So that is like, again, like another great thing that happened this month. And the last thing is that I started testing the waters with ballet again, and I don't know if I'm gonna make this permanent or part of a weekly routine, but I started kind of dabbling with it a little bit. I was feeling a little bit like I had a therapy session, which was like really hard, and then I waited just like maybe half an hour, and I'm like, you know what, let's just do it. And I felt so much better after doing that ballet, and it's been a while, a hot minute. Like I remember all of like what all the names of the moves are and how to do them, but knowing that information doesn't actually make the doing okay. But one of the things that I noticed was that I tried ballet again. I think it was earlier this year, back in January, if not at the end of last year. I didn't feel connected to it in the same ways when I was doing it the first time, and I realized like how out of ballet shape I was, and that kind of got to me a little bit. But what I noticed this time, like the fact that I was out of ballet shape didn't really bother me like at all. It wasn't really something I thought of, except when I'm trying to do the moves and I'm like struggling. It was more like, this is hard, opposed to you can't do this thing you used to. But what I noticed is that I was connected back to that feeling of why I liked it in the first place. And ballet, one of the reasons why I love it is that it makes me feel so powerful and like controlled. It makes me feel so powerful. And I was feeling that way even when I'm like, you know, struggling to do it. I was still doing it, and I don't want to, I mean, it's fun, but when you're in the moment and you're focusing hard, you're not focusing on the fun. But it was enjoyable, totally. And I was feeling like this badass woman, you know, who's powerful AF, and it was great. And I feel motivated to at least do it another time. And I just committed to myself of doing this one time, seeing how it goes, but also like allowing myself to be invested in this opportunity and like buy in. And I did. And like that's all that I wanted was, are you buying in? Are you present? And there was no expectation of more, because I feel like sometimes that can just set up this you're a failure, you're not doing it kind of thing, and I didn't want that at all. So I'm feeling really excited to have a round two, so to speak. What an update. I think that was a big one. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. I'd love to hear them. That's the video. Thank you so much for being here today, and hope to see you again around here soon.